Yeah, I'm going to do this here, and I'll try to be as quick as I can. Last week, there was a City for Champions stakeholders meeting that Chairman President King and I were invited to. He was unable to make it at the last minute, and so I represented him. It was between 1:30 and 3 on Thursday the 9th, and it was an initial meeting that took place with what they call the key stakeholders. And I wanted to give you a briefing on what happened. In the meeting, Jason Dunn, who's an attorney with Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, and Schreck, he is the coordinator of the whole City for Champions process. He also was the coordinator for the process with the City of Pueblo a year ago. He was telling us basically the roadmap of what's happening immediately. First of all, the things, and by the way, I'm the messenger here, so if I don't have the answer to your questions, that's I apologize. But the first thing that's on the list right now is that we have the city and the City for Champions project has 120 days to come to a contract with the State Economic Development Commission. That's their focus right now. That 120 days is April 16th is when that needs to be completed. They also, the second thing that they're focused on doing is setting up an advisory board. The meeting that I had, that I was invited to, the shareholders meeting, was the introduction of that. This advisory board will work for the life of the TIF, which is 30 years. It's this group that will be the coordinating factor for this. The advisory board will designate the use of the money that comes from the RTA. They have the money has to go to a certain body to be held, and that will be the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. And so the money that comes from the state will be held in a separate account by the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority in a special fund. And they will, that advisory board will be making the financial allocation decisions as it relates to that. The people that will be on the advisory board will be the chairs of each of the venues, and I'll come back to that. It will be co-chaired by Commissioner Dennis Heisey and Mayor Bach, and it will include, the way I understand it right now, it'll include President King, and if not him, I've offered to if he can't do it, I've offered to fill in for him. The chairs of the different venues at this time, and I've got to look at my notes here. Dick Celeste will be chairing the venue for the Olympic Museum. We do not know right now who will be responsible for the Air Force Academy Visitor Center. We were represented by the Deputy Superintendent. Colonel Evan Miller, the Assistant Superintendent, was representing the Air Force Academy. I do not know if he will be the representative from the Academy. Chancellor Shockley will be with UCCS, and the sports venue, the downtown sports venue, would be Doug Price at this time. The other thing that's being required by the state is that they provide that the local group, and I would believe it'd be the advisory board or whoever's will be providing a milestone and phasing plan, is the terminology that was used. And that milestone and phasing plan has a 90-day schedule, and so it's to be completed by March 16th. There are some other things that was explained by Jason Dunn, the attorney. The project, each of the 4 projects have to commence substantial work within 5 years, but the definition of substantial work is loosely defined. So the hiring of, to do some planning, the hiring of an architect is considered substantial work. But the project must be complete, each project must be completed within 10 years. So substantial work has to start within 5 years, it has to be completed within 10 years. The application that we received was approved as one project. And so there'll be 4 projects. They all have to be completed. If one of them is not completed, there could be some funds and a penalty that could happen if one of the projects is not completed. And the penalty could be pay back the funds plus interest. That it could be as simple as that. There were some other things that I found was interesting and important to understand. There is no cross-collateralization between the different projects or venues. So one, I'll use the Olympic Museum cannot collateralize the sports venue or the USOC or the Air Force Academy Visitors Center. There's no cross-collateralization, and each of the 4 venues are to stand financially independent and not put any of the others at risk. So that's part of the rules. The language in the agreement that we're talking about, the contract that I said has to be done by April 16th, they're dealing with some of the language that needs to be refined at this time. I'll give you an example of that. I hope I'm phrasing this properly. In the agreement, it speaks that the museum has to be able to obtain a license from the USOC to use their logo and everything. Well, the USOC doesn't license that. They do contract for that. So it's semantics on that. So some of that language has to be cleaned up. The mayor anticipates, and as one of the co-chairs, that there will be potential committees. Those committees that were discussed could be financing, could be land use, could be sports venue committee, could be a communications committee, could be a planning committee, could be public improvements, and et cetera. I did ask that council be briefed as soon as possible. President King and I will be meeting with Bob Cope and the mayor at 10 o'clock on Thursday to schedule that and coordinate what that briefing will look like. So that is imminent, and we'll get that done as quickly as possible. I heard this, and I hope I'm expressing it right. There will be some funds from RTA, the USOC, the U.S. Air Force Academy, and UCCS that goes to this project, but they are not asking for public funds beyond that. They intend to raise their own funds beyond that, other than any raised funds would be, I believe, the way I do that by default would be for the sports venue. We also, one of the things that I know that's going to come to council as these projects move forward, the need to reset the downtown urban renewal clock will be a requirement, and that will be a council responsibility. I also asked for them to identify milestones and timing issues related to what council will be expected of council, what will be the items that's expected of council, and what will be the time frame for that to happen. The final thing I wanted to say is that came out of this group is that there's a couple of things, but the Cimarron interchange, of which you noticed will be completed in 2017, will be done prior to these projects coming online, and they believe will resolve any issues that might relate to CDOT because of that interchange being done by 2017. There's, if you don't know about it, there is a public meeting called that's coordinated by the Gazette for Thursday, January 23rd in the evening, and it's a public meeting to discuss City for Champions. So if you're interested, you need to know that. That was the nature of the meeting and all the information that came out. I was writing furiously so I could report back to you. There's, as you can see, a whole lot of work that has to be done. But this was an organizational meeting, and at least either President King or one other council member will be engaged in that steering committee and advisory committee. Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Collins.
I'll do my best here.
Yes, Councilmember Bennett. Where is that public meeting, January 23rd, Thursday?
You know, they did not identify where that's at, but it has been announced by the Gazette, I believe, and Andy he was aware of it, so we'll find that for you and let you know that, where that's at.
Councilmember Knight.
Yeah, I would like, if we can get 5 head nods for council to ask for legal opinion from our new city attorney's office of the right of the establishment of this board. It was pointed out in the Independent, and now reading Article 9, boards and commissions. Basically 9-10 says council is the one to establish all boards and commissions.
I don't have a problem with you asking the city attorney to do that. It was my understanding that the advisory board was set up through the process for the RTA, but I don't know the answer to that.
The board will be discussed in the resolution that the state commission eventually approves. And so we're sort of waiting until that resolution is negotiated until we see what is required.
Yeah.
The statute does say that there is a regional tourism advisory board, but that was not requested as part of the application. So we're not quite sure how the commission envisions this board, but we're basically waiting for the resolution.
That was my...
That's a short answer.
But in the meantime, you got the mayor establishing a board, while it's clearly shown in Article 9 that that's a council function.
If it were advisory to council, I'd absolutely agree with you. But again, this board will have advisory duties to the state commission. So again, we're really looking to see what that resolution says from the state.
Yeah, I can't answer any more than that, Don. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Pico.
On the 23rd, it's at C.C. Armstrong Hall. It's a community conversations panel, which is focusing on business development and the relationship of what City for Champions will have on it.
Good.
They invited 3 people to be on the panel, and I was one of those that they invited.
It's at the Armstrong Hall?
At Armstrong Hall at
Colorado College.
At what time?
It's in
6 to 7:15.
6?
6 to 7:15.
6 to 7:15. Okay, Councilmember Miller.
The RTA Advisory Board, as it was listed in the application, is not advisory to the state. It's advisory to what to do with the money and who appropriates to where it's going, which project. That's the way it's described. And I guess I hadn't planned on talking about this today, but it bothers me, and I appreciate that Councilmember Bennett brought this back to us, that in this stakeholder meeting, we've now been through this process since March of last year, and we still have no details about the financing. And on that March 16th deadline, there's also financial commitments ready, which means the TIF financing that's going to be required for this projects will be coming to this body to give to the state by March 16th. And yet, I am still having to file CORA requests to get financial information. Added to that, there are people who are redacting CORA information who are people that stand to gain from this. There are Norwood employees that the Office of Economic Development and International Trade are giving the opportunity to redact information on a CORA request for City Council, who's going to have to approve that to pay for this project. Now, I'm the state approved the request for $120 million, but I remind everybody that it is 19% of the project cost. When you consider financing, it's 19%. So to say that we should be full steam ahead on this, I think is premature. And when you talk about all the things that have to be done, I would like council to give direction to figure out where that money's coming from. Who's hiring the architects? Who's paying for the bond councils? Who's paying for all of this information that's having to be crafted in the next 90 days? Because I'm sure the $75,000 the previous council already allocated has been used up. What budget is it coming out of? I asked those questions, was denied answers on them by the economic vitality specialist. So I'd appreciate any support if I could get 4 other council members. I guess I'm very frustrated with the amount of information that's being given to council when we are the ones, because when it comes down to it, the local components are going to be providing $350 million over the next 30 years. $350 million. Some of that's from the county, most of it is from us. And yet, I'm having to file core requests to get information, and I think that is outrageous, and I think it's despicable.
Okay, Councilmember Snyder, are you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yes, but on something totally different.
Oh, no, something totally different. Let's finish this topic then.
Since we've been invited, you and I have been invited to meet with Bob Cope and the mayor to prepare for that, I would love to have the questions that council has, so that when we go into that meeting, we'd say, if you're going to come and present to us, be prepared to answer these questions.
And one of the things I was hoping to discuss at our retreat, which I think is Friday, is...
No.
No, it got moved.
You'll be
Oh,
alone.
it's too far away? I was hoping-
29th.
Like writing an email.
I'm a week ahead of myself with the retreat. Was hopefully coming up with the list of things that we wanted to have discussed on when we have a meeting for information to be given to council by the people that are proponents of the City for Champions, to make sure that we have an opportunity to vet the questions, and maybe it will take more than one. Maybe it's a structural one, maybe one is a finance one, so that we have opportunities to delve into what the different issues are, and so we get all of our questions answered. So maybe we can work on that with on this Thursday, trying to figure out a way to schedule that, and then maybe we schedule 1 or 2 meetings, and then we have a council work session after that, just where we sit down and work and say, what are the priorities of this council as we go forward, as we work on this issue? What do we feel we need to have done? And I think those meetings need to be done in January and February, by the middle of February at the latest, so that we have some feel for where the values of council are as we go forward with this particular issue. So I think that would be important. Councilmember Miller.
I guess the last thing I'll leave you with is, on the last thing I received from a Cora request was a list of to-dos on the project. And let me just read to you a few that are related to City Council. Prepare and update Southwest Downtown Urban Renewal Area Plan to reflect C4C projects and expanded boundaries. URA Board approval of updated plan for Southwest Downtown will, of course, and resetting the TIF clock. Implementing the TIF would be coming to this body. CSURA Board approval of Regional Tourism Zone Urban Renewal Area. I believe that would eventually come to us as well. Setting a TIF for 90% of the city cash registers, that would be taking a portion of our general fund revenues and peeling them off to pay for these projects. City Council approval of the ordinance authorizing the RTA zone urban renewal area establishing the city TIF. City Council approval of ordinance approving transfer of TIF revenues to the Urban Renewal Authority. City Council appropriation of funds for parking garage financial feasibility analysis. City Council authorization of ordinance authorizing the issuance of Series 2015A parking system revenue bonds, $29 million. Again, they know all these things have to come to us, and yet we're still not getting information. I have Bob Cope saying he will not answer questions unless the mayor directly authorizes him to do it. And this has gotten to the point where the lack of information and the systematic
Is it possible to have that? I've never heard about
Sure,
that.
I'm happy to provide everything from a Cora request.
If we could have that sent to all council members,
I
that would
mean,
be
this is-
beneficial. I've never seen that, so that'd be great.
This is and then, the public has been told for months that there was going to be a public process. Let's get the money from the state, and then we'll decide if we want to do these projects. Well, there's no determination or public discussion. We're full steam ahead, and there is no public discussion. There's no release of information, and it's a process it's a done deal. There's that same core group that said they had to do it in privacy are now pushing forward with the project when we have 19% of it paid for.
Councilmember Bennett.
Just to clarify, there was some discussion in this stakeholders meeting about engagement of the community, and that's why one of the communication committee was brought forward that might be stuff. So it's not like they ignored that. It may not be at the level that we wanted, but that was part of the discussion that took place the other day.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Councilmember Collins?
Yes.
Then we'll go, that's a different topic.
So I got something on this now.
Oh, you have something on this now? Okay, we'll come back
No,
to you.
go ahead.
Multitasking. Go ahead.
Merv, can we get the minutes from that meeting? It seems like if we got the minutes from that meeting, that would be something official.
There's no minutes.
No.
I wrote up my notes.
Nobody at that meeting took minutes? Are you kidding?
I can ask.
Ask that, if that's it, that's absurd. Yeah, that is absolutely crazy.
ask for that.
And let me, regarding that issue, the deal with the RTA, the approval was with the city of Colorado Springs. It wasn't with Sports Corp. It wasn't with Norwood. It wasn't with the Olympic Committee. It was with the city of Colorado Springs. So henceforth, if there are meetings of stakeholders or anything else, it certainly ought to have minutes and it ought to be transparent.
Okay, Councilmember Collins.
I understand this public meeting, this January 23rd, is a panel, so it sounds like there is no public input. And I can tell you for a fact that the people in Southeast would like a public, open meeting from the citizens of Colorado Springs. Thank you.
I think we need to do several public meetings. I've always said that's very important for us to do as we go through this process. Are we done with that particular topic? Councilmember Snyder, you have a different topic.
Okay, different topic, and like Merv said, don't shoot the messenger, but at about 9:20 this morning, I sent you all the final of the draft study, 1.3 meg, 141 pages of riveting